All right, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for your patience. It is really wonderful to be here with you today, and I want to begin by thanking our hosts. So thank you so much, Camden Prep. I see Principal Natalie Aronson there in the back, and I also want to acknowledge the Bonsall School Principal, Tyrone Richards. Let's give our hosts and Tyrone a round of applause. So we've got a room filled with a number of different people who play a significant role in the work that we do to serve our children here in Camden. And I want to acknowledge a couple right here from Ward 2, our council member, Brian Coleman. Let's give him a round of applause. And our incredible board president, Ms. Martha Wilson, is here. So we're here to talk about PARCC results. And so before I dive in, and there's a brief presentation, I want you to join me in the land of nuance for a moment. And what I mean by that is we are here to acknowledge the next step forward, a sign of progress in this incredibly hard work that we do. But at the same time, we are not here to drop confetti and balloons and to celebrate a sense of accomplishment in terms of having arrived. We are not spiking the football on the 2-yard line to drop another analogy on you. PARCC is an important test, and we feel an obligation to report out these outcomes because it is certainly an assessment that has garnered a lot of attention both here in the state of New Jersey and across the country. It is a better assessment than the old NJ-ASC. It is more rigorous, it is more aligned to college and career readiness, and certainly everyone in this room feels a moral obligation to ensure that our students are reading, writing, and doing math on grade level. At the same time, it is not the only measure of how our students are doing. It is not to say that we are here to put all of our eggs in this one basket. And so I just want to call that out because this is insanely hard work. And for us to show you test scores and to tell you that this is the be-all, end-all would be to sell our educators' efforts short. And to give you a few examples of what I mean by that is over the course of the last 3 years, as much as we've put effort into better training our teachers with stronger curriculum and a focus on instruction, at the same time, we've actually reduced the amount of time we spend assessing our kids during the school day. And so we've actually peeled back some of our interim assessments over the course of the school day, given some of the feedback we heard from our teachers and parents and other staff. We've invested heavily in the social and emotional learning growth of our students. And there are a number of initiatives underway, one being training all of our teachers on restorative justice practices and trauma-informed care, and another being a home visit program where we are going into the homes of our most chronically absent students. And think about that as another measure of success where we want to reduce that chronic absenteeism. And that doesn't speak to test scores, it speaks to investing heavily to go into the homes of our young people who are facing some significant challenges at home and those families that require additional support. So I want to just begin there, even though very little of that has to do with what I'm going to share with you now. But I want to set that context because I can't tell you how many conversations we have in our central office and with our incredible Renaissance School partners about things other than test scores. This work is incredibly, incredibly complex, and test scores don't tell you the whole story. But they certainly tell you some things. And so, with that said, I want to jump in here and begin with district results. And I'm also going to share with you our Renaissance School results, and really thrilled that we're joined, of course, by the Camden Prep team, as they're the host here. We're also joined by the Mastery team. And I'm going to welcome up the Uncommon team in a moment. So starting with districts, so this is for just traditional public schools, grades 3 to 8. And the dark bar on the left represents 14-15 scores, and the lighter bar on the right represents the most recent 15-16 outcomes. And as you can see here, we see progress across both math and ELA. And so if you see this line here at the bottom, over 120 more students are now proficient in math, and nearly 250 more students are proficient in ELA. when you look at high school results, similar theme here with algebra and ELA seeing progress. Unfortunately, a slight dip in geometry. And so, 2 out of 3 showing progress there, with geometry being an area of focus for us going forward. I mean, all of these are areas of focus going forward. And one reason we know across all subject areas we need to be focused is when you compare our outcomes to the state averages, we are still very much behind. And clearly the challenges that we all inherited here were significant, and this is a very, very steep mountain to climb. And we all know that, and we all acknowledge that. In terms of some of the measures that have been put into place to address the steep mountain we have to climb, I want to welcome up our Deputy Superintendent of School Support to talk you through some of those additional supports, really even in the last year, we've been able to put in place. And so if you haven't met Katrina McCombs, Ms. McCombs has been in the district for a long time. She started as a teacher, worked her way up to a principal. When I came in, she was the director of early childhood, and is just such a shining example of all the many, many great educators doing incredible work for our students and families. So let me welcome up Ms. McCombs.
Thank you so much. Before I begin to talk about these remarks very briefly, I want to say that every time I walk into Bonsall Family School, it means a great deal to me. I remember being here as a 4th and 5th grade student, and I won't tell you the year, but I will tell you the principal, and you can Google it and figure it out for yourselves. But Miss Dorothy Wyatt was the principal at that time, and she was a true example of what it meant to hold the bar high. So it's great to be in this moment in time, in history, in our city's educational system. And I'm truly humbled by it, and I'm looking forward to the advances that we can continue to make together for all of the students in our city. So as Paymon said, we're not celebrating, and we know that we have made some gains and some strides in our student achievement results as measured by PARCC. And because of that, we have been extremely reflective and critical in thinking about what our plan needs to be so that we can make a better difference, a stronger impact when it comes to our students' academic outcomes. So we are focused on building on the progress and improving performance. And here are just a few focal points of areas that we're looking to really focus on to improve our student outcomes. So the first, adding operational support. I remember walking through Uncommon and also several of our other Renaissance partner schools during our school information card visits. And I was impressed by many, many, many different things, but I was impressed by the fact that the school leaders that I saw it seemed that they were able to focus in a laser-like way on instruction. And that is something that has not always been the case in our district schools. So one of the pieces that we added this year under the guidance of our superintendent is the role of operations managers in each of our school buildings. And those operations managers are going to allow our school leaders in district schools to also be able to focus in on instruction, giving our leaders the opportunity to really focus there and to leave the other logistical pieces that are just as critical and just as important to the success of our students and our schools, but being able to give our school leaders that opportunity to focus. We also added family and operations coordinators who are supporting our customer service efforts. One of the things that we have been charged with in our district is making sure that our parents, our families, our community members feel welcomed when they come into our schools, and that there is an organized, focused, targeted approach to making sure that happens. So our family and operations coordinators are also supporting that effort, and again, removing something from the principal's plate so that they are able to focus on instruction. The second prong of this three-pronged approach is focusing in on early literacy interventions. We know as educators, we know as parents, we know as individuals that if our students do not grasp a love for reading in the earlier years, and if they don't have the fundamental foundational skills and tools to be able to be the foundation so they can build upon that, then they won't have success in future years. And so we took a step back again and focused in on what are our literacy efforts in the district? What have we done? What do we need to do? And how can we get there? This past year, we implemented STEP literacy program in our K through third grade classrooms. This year, we are expanding the STEP program to include our fourth and fifth grade classrooms as well. And STEP will allow us to be able to really look with a targeted lens at the deficits that are in place with regard to our students who are struggling in reading, but being able to do that in an earlier on so that we can intervene earlier. In addition to our STEP expansion, we're also, we added reading interventionists to all of our family and elementary schools. So all classrooms that are in grades K through 3 have a reading interventionist that is assigned. So the building level reading interventionists make sure that their schedule will accommodate the classrooms in their schools. And this is a giant step because we know that, again, if we want to make sure that our students develop a love and understanding for reading early on, then we must make sure that we are solidifying and building them up at the earlier years. So reading interventionists in all K-3 classrooms, STEP expansion in grades 4 to 5, and also a literacy block that is prescribed so that we have rotations which include an increased emphasis on guided reading, as well as independent work, and also a chance for our reading interventionists to push in and to be able to provide that intervention and support. And finally, the third part of our approach is making sure that as we're rolling these things out, if our teachers and school leaders aren't trained and they are not well-versed in what they are expecting to see and what we want to see, then it won't work. So we are focusing our efforts in partnering with our curriculum providers, also TNTP, also ANET, to support our coaching efforts, not only of our school teachers, but also of our school leaders. So those are the 3 prongs that we are focusing on. This is by far not the only thing that we're doing, but this is the area that we're focusing on to really bring better results for more students in Camden. Thank you.
All right, so the next slide is going to show all of the schools where's the, go ahead. Oh, this is the district and Renaissance schools together, okay. So this represents all of traditional public schools and district and Renaissance schools together. And so as you can see, compared to what I showed you originally, there's a slighter improvement. And that's and the reason it's slight, and you'll see, by the way, the Renaissance schools growth in a moment. It shows greater improvement than in traditional public schools. The reason that it's only incremental from what you saw in the previous slides is that the district still represents the vast majority of our kids, and within some of our Renaissance schools, not many of their students were taking the assessment, but it does show an increase here in the improvement when you lump them all together. This is what I was referring to. So this shows all of the schools, traditional public and Renaissance schools, on one chart. I won't read through each of them individually. The takeaway here for me is that, one, just about every single school showed improvement from the year before. And this is for math. And the same applies for ELA. And you see more significant growth for the Renaissance schools. But just about every single school, traditional public and Renaissance schools, you see improvement. And as I acknowledged earlier, we have a long ways to go. So the 2 lines at the top represent the last 2 years for the state average. So the state also improved slightly. And as we all, again, acknowledge, and the hard work continues, we have a long ways to go. Similar trends again with ELA. So let me begin now by sharing out very briefly some of our Renaissance school outcomes, starting with mastery. I want to begin by thanking Scott Gordon and Joe Ferguson for being here and for all of your efforts and remarkable work to better serve families in North Camden and Kramer Hill and East Camden. So what you see here for mastery is that in ELA across all 4 schools they see improvement, and for 3 out of 4 we see improvement in math. Mastery took on a bigger challenge, if you want to use those words, in terms of having served greater a number of grade levels and more students in a very short timeline. And so they took on grades K to 8, and I believe they have close to about 1,500 students. If I have that number wrong, speak up. But that is a tremendous challenge, and they're doing incredibly hard work each and every day, and pleased to see this progress. With KIPP, so KIPP is serving fewer grade levels at their main building and the students they took on from Whittier School. And so this represents that kind of that smaller number of students. It's 112 test takers compared to about 350 test takers in Mastery. And you see the improvements here on the left-hand side in math and on the right-hand side in ELA. So approximately a 6-point bump here and a 17-point bump in ELA. So fairly significant progress for KIPP. For Camden Prep, I'm not going to do the talking, and given we're here on their home turf, I'm going to welcome up Michael Ambrose to walk you through these results.
Good morning. My name is Michael Ambrose, and I am the Chief Operating Officer of Uncommon Schools Camden Prep. I'd like to welcome you all here to our school. We're happy to be hosting this event. And on behalf of our students and teachers, thank you so much for attending. I want to first acknowledge and thank our special guests who are here with us today, Deputy Superintendent Katrina McCombs, Martha Wilson, President of the School Board, Councilman Brian Coleman, Pastor Keith Davis, Pastor Odessa Edmonds, representatives from the New Jersey Department of Ed, representatives from Jersey Can, and our Renaissance partners from Mastery. I also want to thank Principal Richards and the Bonsall Family School for their ongoing partnership with us here at Camden Prep, as well as Superintendent Rouhanifard for his partnership in this work and his visionary leadership for Camden's children. We are very thankful for his partnership. I also want to acknowledge our school leaders who are with us. Natalie Cooper, our principal, who's in the back of the room doing amazing work, along with the many folks who are here. It is our leaders' relentless commitment and dedication, and our teachers who are in their classrooms right now in this building that inspire all of us to keep improving so we can put more Camden children on the path to college. At Camden Prep, our goal is that 100% of our students get into, succeed, and graduate from a four-year college. This goal informs every single thing that we do and every single decision that we make, even from the earliest days of kindergarten. Our eyes and our students' eyes never leave that prize. When we look at our results from last year, we can say that we are very proud of the progress that Camden Prep students have made in 1 year. But as the superintendent has said across the city, in the same breath, we also have to acknowledge that we still have a lot of work to do in order to get better. Like the district, we're spending a lot of time poring over our results, dissecting them, cutting them in every which way that we can to help us figure out how we can better serve our students. For certain, there are many bright spots. Clearly, the hard work of our students, our families, and our teachers is paying off. For example, 9 times the percentage of students at Camden Prep scored proficient this year in ELA than the prior year, and in math, 6 times the percentage of students scored proficient than the year prior. 3/4 of our students in both math and ELA went up at least 1 performance level over the previous year, and not a single student dropped in performance. And nearly 1/3 of our students jumped at least 2 levels. Of the students who have scored in the lowest level of ELA the prior year, more than half of them improved 2 levels, and nearly 1/4 of them increased 3 levels in their first year at Camden Prep. We are driven by our mission at Camden Prep not just because it's important for our students to get into college for the sake of going, but college affords opportunities. It opens up avenues to success, and it gives our kids choices. When reflecting on our data, these numbers matter because they don't just represent points on a test. They represent our individual Camden children and their futures full of opportunities. Because our students remind us each and every day what we know to be true, that when expectations are set high and we provide resources for our students to meet them, they will hit that bar each and every time. At Camden Prep, we will need to continue to build on that foundation that our students, teachers, and families have laid over this past year so that even more Camden students will excel year after year. This is how we ensure our students are not only college ready, but even more importantly, that they are ready to compete in a world and be provided every opportunity to be the masters of their own destinies. Our families are thrilled, of course, when their children first learn how to read. But what's not captured in these numbers is the number of times parents have also thanked us for providing a school that is safe and where their children are loved. While these two measures do not show up in our results, they remain areas we are also deeply proud of. And we know some of you will get a chance to see, peek into some of our classrooms today to see our scholars hard at work and having fun and loving what they are learning along the way. Our work is far from done because the number of children who are not yet proficient in our school is just too great. Each morning, Camden Prep scholars chant the words, good, better, best, never let it rest, until your good is better and your better is best. Every single member of the Camden Prep community lives that mantra, whether students, teachers, parents, or leaders. So we are digging in now and working hard because our scholars and our families deserve nothing less from us. Thank you again for coming out today to Camden Prep and for supporting the hard work of our students, families, and teachers.
All right, thank you, Michael. Let me make one clarifying comment across the 3 Renaissance schools results that I showed you all, and Michael alluded to this. The bar on the left, the 14-15 results, they represent the students these schools inherited. And so as you all know, we made a partnership to transform a number of our schools, both in terms of the facilities, but certainly with focus on academic outcomes. And so here on the left-hand side, this represents the incoming proficiency levels from students that were previously at Bonsall School. And for Mastery, you saw each of the 4 schools. Those were the students that were previously in a traditional public school, and same goes with KIPP and the Whittier School. And so I just wanted to call that out in case there are any questions about that. So I want to now close out by welcoming our board president, Martha Wilson. Ms. Wilson has been in this conversation about doing better by our kids for a very, very long time. And I want to acknowledge the risk that she took well before our administration came into the picture, well before the state intervened here in Camden, because she was on the board when KIPP was first being proposed as a new idea, a new concept to come into Camden. And she showed a great deal of courage then when nobody was talking about new schools, new options, and doing better by our kids in Camden. And she's got some stories she can share with you. I don't know if those are the stories she's going to share right now. But she stood tall, and she, we're really standing on your shoulders, Ms. Wilson, with this announcement here today about the progress of our school. So I want to welcome you up.
Good morning, all. It is indeed a pleasure to be here and stand before you today. It is indeed a pleasure to be here and stand before you today. We've been on this road for a long time. It's been a long journey. But the important thing is we're seeing change. The Renaissance schools were a tough sell for me when they first came out in the beginning. I've always advocated on behalf of our public schools. I then found myself in a situation where Lanning Square, which is in my neighborhood, was no longer there. 10 years, parents fought to get a school within our community. And when the term KIPP came up, I had to turn to my neighborhood because the parents are the most important people in this other than our students. They're the main stakeholders. So talking with them, they needed a change. They were willing to take the chance on something different. And as a leader through the Democratic Committee, as a leader, as a part of the Board of Education here in the city of Camden, it was then my responsibility to make sure that the parents' voices were heard, and that's exactly what we did. We stood up, we protested, we stood at the corners, and we did whatever it was we needed to do to make sure that they heard what we had to say. Our children are the most important things in the city of Camden because they are the ones who are the residents who's trying to get themselves to a point where they can compete in a global community. That's our responsibility as leaderships in education. The first thing that I wanted to do was make sure they had certified teachers in their schools. I wanted to make sure that the English language learners were getting what they needed. That those who had disabilities were also given the same opportunities that the rest of their peers were receiving. That's their responsibility in the school district to make sure that we get that. We get a lot of help. We get help on the local level, the state, and the federal. With that, there are guidelines for every dollar that comes into the school district. Now, we have to work together as a team. We have to work uniformly in order to make those things happen. And the most important thing that I can say to you that I have seen, and I'm looking at the results that the superintendent had shared with me that I got to see before today, and I am happy. It's growth. That's the bottom line. You keep doing the same thing over and over, it becomes insanity. We took a chance. We stepped out, and I can see the benefits from it. So I'm glad to be able to stand here today and say thank you to the mayor, to the superintendent, to our staff, and the leadership that the superintendent has put together. I can say to you that I see a major difference taking place in the school district. And the reason for that is the leadership team that I believe that the superintendent has put together. Because one department has to talk to each other, and then they have to get those who work in their departments to do what their job is called for. The teachers are getting trained, they're getting the PD that they're entitled to, and we no longer have community school coordinators, we have family operation coordinators. And with that, there's a major difference that's going to take place here. Those family operation coordinators are major, that our children don't slip through the cracks because they are the connection between the home and the school. So I stand here on the laurels of, I'm an alumni from Camden High School. I went to school in the city of Camden. I went on to become administrative accountant for RCA and worked on all of the major projects that took place by putting in a first income savings plans, IRAs, different accounts that we knew we were going to need, but no one knew how to put it together. I'm proud to say I came out of the Camden City School District. I wrote those programs, set them up, and then made sure that the deductions came out properly. And we did direct deposit for the first time. So don't tell me that a child coming out of the city of Camden cannot do or become. They can become anything that they wanted to. The main important thing for us is to lead, guide, and direct them. Let them be who they are, but help to guide them in the right direction. Don't break them. Help push them and guide them. What do? You plant a seed, you cultivate the ground, you water it, and that seed will grow. That's how I look at our children in the city of Camden. And I thank each and every one of you for everything that you're doing to support them.
All right, so that concludes our speakers and the presentation. I want to end by sharing this. So our vision statement in the district is that Camden be known as a thriving city with world-class public education. We're not there yet. That is certainly what we aspire to be. And our president has a line he often shares with his team specifically, and that line is, progress is good. Progress is good. And today is a sign of that progress. And really, really grateful to our team, to our board, to our elected officials, and not least of all, a huge, huge thanks to our Renaissance School partners for taking that leap of faith, coming into Camden, doing right by our kids and families. It's such a unique partnership. You really don't see it in most other parts of the country, and so we're so thankful for all your hard work. We're all going to stick around to the extent that folks have questions for us or anyone else. So that concludes the press conference. Thank you.
All right, so after the press event, we're here with a proud grandparent of a student at Camden Prep. Ms. Blevins, thanks very much for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself first? Let's start there.
Well, I'm a proud guardian parent of Asir Harvey, who I'm so very proud of. He's turning 9 years old, but he's just so eager to learn. So I had to bring him to a school that was eager to teach him.
And how did you make this decision to send him to this school in particular?
Just walking through my neighborhood. I live on 10th Street. Walking through my neighborhood, I saw the posters. I said, well, let me check into this. Let's see what this is going, all about. Camden Prep. So I walked into Nazarene Church, was there then, and sat down, and they talked to me and showed me different things. I said, sounds good to me. So I tried it.
And my understanding is that you were a former educator, so you have some experience looking at schools and determining, what makes the most sense for children.
Yes. People say something, but it doesn't happen. So I'm steady watching, waiting for, something to happen. Nothing happened but the best. He just got better and better and better.
And tell us about your years in the classroom. What grades were you teaching? Where were you teaching?
Okay, I started at really BPUM, a daycare. And then I went on back to school, and I started really teaching at PARCC, PARCC, and ECDC. And I just fell in love with it, So I said, this is where I'm supposed to be, And it was okay, but we didn't get enough. I would ask for the advanced children. I would ask for materials. I couldn't get it. We don't have that in our budget. I went in my own budget and got it. I wasn't going to say no. I wasn't going to say no. These children are our future, and we have to do something with it now. We can't wait. We can't wait. And that's what Camden Prep is doing. My grandchildren, they're college children. I have a granddaughter that teaches in Linden Wall. Well, she supervises the mentally challenged children. Plus, she teaches at Stockton College. Then I have another one. She just went off to Japan. She's teaching English. Then I have another one who's a nurse. But my children, I installed in my children, my 3 sons, and my 8 grandchildren. Education is the way to go. If you don't get a good education, you can forget it. And that's what I'm doing with ASER.
And it seems like you're very active in ASER's education, and you're often here at Camden Prep.
Oh, yes. Whenever they need me, I'll be here.
And any last thoughts for parents or grandparents who are in the neighborhood or who might see Camden Prep, not sure kind of what it is? Any thoughts you'd like to share with them about kind of what it's been for you and how it might be for them?
Well, I've already been out there, and I tell people they're not satisfied with their school. I said, you better send them to Camden Prep. And I'll show them my baby's report card from last year. Better send them to Camden Prep. I'll hold up some books. I said, my grandson, he reads on a 3rd grade or 4th grade level. And I said, if you want a well-educated child, send them to Camden Prep. I said, try them. I said, don't take my word for it, try them.
Good afternoon. We're here with Mr. Herbert, a parent of students here at Camden Prep. So, Mr. Herbert, first, can you just tell us about your children who attend Camden Prep?
Yes, I have a daughter, Marley, who's in the 3rd grade here at Camden Prep, and also have twin autistic boys that are 6 years old that attend the 1st grade here.
That's great. That's great. And Camden Prep is a relatively new school in Camden. How did you end up deciding to send your 3 children to Camden Prep?
My daughter originally went to Bonzo for the 1st grade, so I had a basis, a foundation, and once Camden Prep was deciding to take over the school, they came actually to my house and asked if I would like to move Marley into Camden Prep. And when I told them I had twin boys, they were eager to get them in as well.
And had somebody come to your house before? What was that like to have somebody from a prospective new school come and knock on your door and talk about having your kids go to their school?
It was wonderful. That is something that doesn't happen in our community. You don't really see people with a lot of pride in education. So it was a welcome, addition to what I wasn't used to. And I took it very seriously when you come to my door and ask me, questions about my children and would you want to see them in the future. They had a lot of good points, and I decided to give them a chance. And in the first month or 2, I noticed a 100% improvement.
And so tell us about the change. Tell us about what it's like for your children to have attended here so far.
I was really afraid, if I could use that word, afraid, because having autistic boys, they already is kind of seen with a learning disability. And I was afraid that with that connotation going into the school system, that they would have an incredible challenge in learning, because people kind of put them in a box. You know, learning disability is put in a box. And what they showed me was not that it wasn't a learning disability, but that would not get in the way of their intellect and academics.
And what about your third grader? How's it been? Can you describe for parents potentially whose children don't go to Camden Prep what it's like for your children to go to Camden Prep?
Well, they are proud to be scholars at the school. They wake up every day, and they wake me up to go to school. You know, usually you have to wake your kids up and be like, it's time to go to school. No, it's 6:30 in the morning, they're waking me up to get ready for school. They're proud of their school, and I guess for parents who are reluctant, because everybody has a reluctance to charter schools. They have a connotation of, you know, taking over the public schools, shutting the public schools down, firing teachers. But I would recommend that at least give it a shot, because for my kids, you know, I can say personally, it was a tremendous turnaround.